There are three main AI art platforms out there that people are using to get great results, and that is Dall E 2, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion. And today we're going to punch in some basic prompts to compare the results so we can see which ones are performing better or what styles we get from those prompts. Please note that these are just straight up prompts and there is some skill to getting the results you want, but straight out the box, here's what you can expect. We're starting with a beautiful woman with blue eyes, and as you can see, Dall E 2 has created something almost photorealistic, even though the teeth are looking a little bit funny. But when we move over to Midjourney, we get something that's really stunning, although not as photorealistic. But when we punch in Stable Diffusion, at least with this version that I'm using on Hugging Face, it's actually probably not the best of the three, but still somewhat decent to some degree. Look at all three together, and I believe that Midjourney probably is the best looking image, while Dall E has the most realistic, photorealistic image out of all of them. And next we have an oil painting of a Shaolin monk, with this one by Dall E 2, which I think looks pretty decent. It does look like a pretty standard oil painting, very cool. And we're going to move on to the Midjourney image, which is kind of next level and looks really sharp and fantastic and kind of exciting. We switch over to Stable Diffusion, and once again, more of a standard looking oil painting, but still pretty cool. Overall, they've all done pretty well, but I think Midjourney is my favorite on this one. It has a much cooler style, it at least appeals to my taste, but the other ones do a more traditional look, which I also appreciate for what it's worth. And now we have a sunny outdoor scene by Dall E 2, which looks very much like a photo. It's not the most appealing image you've ever seen, but very much like a photo, very cool. Midjourney has really created like an artistic masterpiece out of it. It's actually funny that it chose to do more of a painting style instead of a photo, as obviously Stable Diffusion has gone for more of a photo look again and is definitely between Midjourney and Stable Diffusion for this one. The Dall E 2 one looks like a photo, but it looks like a pretty crappy photo if you ask me. Overall though, all three are good in their own way, but I prefer the last two, Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, for that one. But we're going to go to a busy city street, and Dall E 2 again has gone for it's got a bit of a painted slash photographic look combined. I don't know how that works. We go to Midjourney, and once again we get something a little bit more striking and artistically sort of like the color is really nice. And Stable Diffusion looking again more like a photo. So again, the different styles that it has chosen to use are really quite different from each other. But overall, once again, I think Dall E 2 was probably the weakest on this one, but they're all pretty decent really, with Midjourney looking a little more artistic and better to look at. Moving on to what I started with, which is a cyborg with glowing eyes. Now Dall E 2's done a really simple, basic kind of painting. Pretty cool, not really what I was looking for, but still a cool style. Midjourney has done something really crazy, which looks really impressive. Once again, with that video game style, it looks really awesome. And Stable Diffusion has done, again, not a bad job. Although the eyes aren't really glowing, still looks pretty cool. Once again, compare the three and you get different styles. Dall E 2 is the most different of all three. But overall, they're all good in their own way, once again. But I still prefer Midjourney myself for this one. The other two, not so much. Now going back to another original of mine, a cute puppy wearing sunglasses and headphones. Dall E 2 makes a nice, reasonably photographic look, but pretty boring background, but still pretty cool. Midjourney again, once again, it just seems to own the artistic look, has a bit more depth and is a little bit more impressive. While Stable Diffusion, once again, looks like a photo. It's probably about as good as Dall E 2, maybe a little more realistic, but still pretty cool. I still prefer Midjourney on this one, but they're all pretty good in their own way, but the other two are a little bit more boring, a little bit more flat, but more photorealistic, which is pretty impressive on its own. Now for something different, we're going to try a 3D render of a turtle. This Dall E 2 turtle, as you can see, looks pretty plain, but it does look 3D. It has a cool look. Midjourney produces something like this, which is completely on another level to the 3D render that Dall E 2 created. And when we go to Stable Diffusion, we still got a more 3D look, better than Dall E 2, but just the plain background's a little boring. But once again, it does depend on what you're looking for. Probably easier to cut out the Dall E 2 or the Stable Diffusion turtles if you had to put them into something. But once again, Midjourney just makes the entire scene look more impressive for those three. But now we're going to move on to an ink sketch of a dragon. And Dall E 2's done something pretty rough, but for the style I think is very cool. And when you switch over to Midjourney, it's sort of done more of a photo of an ink drawing, and the ink drawing is completely next level. But you might not be looking for the pens and the bits and pieces, but it's still pretty cool. Stable Diffusion is probably better than Dall E 2, I think. It looks neater, a little bit more cohesive, but still a very cool style. Now, depending on what you're after, You might think that the Dall E 2 or Stable Diffusion are a better choice for this one, but I still think Midjourney's given it more detail and more fun. So let's move on to the next one. Now we've got a photograph of a businessman. Once again, Dall E 2 creates the photo really well. Looks like an actual photograph, something you get at a stock photo site. Chopping up the head isn't good. Midjourney, even though this is a photo, still didn't really get the photo look right. A great picture, but not really like a photo. Stable Diffusion did a good job making it look like a photo, but it actually messed up a few more of the facial elements and wasn't as good as Dall E 2. I would say Dall E 2 wins the photo realism of these three. Midjourney achieves the best look. Stable Diffusion is it's not really doing it for me in this one. So when you look at things from this perspective, it looks like Dall E 2 seems to have the most photorealistic images, and Midjourney tends to have more artistic and better composed images, while Stable Diffusion is probably a bit better at creating photorealistic images than Midjourney, but it's still kind of second to both in my opinion. Now the advantage is also Dall E 2 has a much nicer interface. It's easy to use and has some great features like in-painting and out-painting, where you can add more sort of AI art into areas or outside of areas. Whereas Midjourney is a little bit more complex to use with Discord, but the imagery is a lot better. And Stable Diffusion is, you can actually get it for free, but it is probably the most complex to set up unless you want to go for one of these online interfaces that you can use. So there's a few things to consider there when choosing one of these platforms. What do you think? Which platform is your favorite? Dall E 2 with Midjourney had 1024 by 1024 pixel images, whilst the Stable Diffusion version I was using was smaller, but depending on how you set that up, I'm pretty sure you can change that. But let me know what your thoughts are, what your preference is, if you're using one in particular. What are your thoughts after watching this video, and what will you sort of opt to use if you have to create more AI art? Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.